How's it going? How's John Jay?
Hi everyone. I'm Liza Gentile, the Alumni Relations Manager at Johnson & Wales. I know most of you in the room know me. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. To get us started, I just wanted to introduce David Salthus, class of 1988, who is the General Manager at this lovely hotel.
Thank you all for being here. Sorry for the barriers as you walked into the lobby. It's not really what we planned. 3 weeks ago we had a major flood, and this room was about 2 feet of water. So we did pretty good getting ready for the event tonight. That's why you see the carpet different from spot to spot. But the joys and tribulations of managing a New York City property, you never know what's going to happen. So we have to remediate all of the millwork in the lobby. So because everything from this floor leaked down, so that's why we have what we have there. This is a very iconic building that you're in. In the very room that you're in, does anybody know the? I'll tell you one negative, one bad. Rahimatani, you ever heard of that? A radical Jewish organization that was doing a function here back in 1990 was shot in this very room. 1 week after Marriott took it over. Ghost? There's no ghost. But I tell you, I'll back up even further. The hotel was built in 1924, and it was opened as the Shelton Hotel. It's 1,200 rooms. It was the tallest hotel in the world. It was here before the Waldorf, the Intercom Barclays. This was really the original hotel on Lexington Avenue. And then in 1926, talk about ghosts, Harry Houdini actually performed in our pool. Yeah. You can search it on Google. It'll show you that Harry Houdini performed. He was submerged for 90 minutes. He came out. It's all a big deal. So lots of famous people. And then in 1978, it became the Holleran House. And that's where it really became a very hardcore, organized Local 6 union hotel, which many of the practices of what happened in the city of New York from a union perspective really originated from this property. And someone like myself gets to live it every day. So as you can imagine, it's interesting. But it's fun. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger in a hotel like this. And then Marriott took over in 1990. And we've been a Marriott hotel ever since. And we'll celebrate 30 years this year. So delighted to have you all here. Hope you have a good time this evening. Hope you stick around for some food and beverage afterwards. I know that the chef and the banquet team is trying to put their best foot forward to impress you this evening. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you for hosting us this evening. We really appreciate it. Now I want to introduce Patrick Leary, Associate Professor and Department Chair in the Sports Entertainment Event Management Department at Johnson & Wales Providence campus.
Hi everyone, thanks Laz, and thank you David for hosting us at this wonderful property. Best of luck with the remediation, but we're happy to be here. I'm certainly thrilled to be here. This is my second year at this event in New York, and it's so great to see the JWU family come together in this environment. So really thrilled for a wonderful evening. Thanks for making the journey out on a Monday. I just wanted to start off by bringing up to speed. We have a lot of really exciting developments happening on campus, and I know I was speaking to many of you earlier, and I know many of you haven't been able to make it back to campus recently, and I strongly urge you to join us for Alumni Weekend. Just a shameless plug for Alumni in April. But we really love these events because it bridges kind of that divide that you can feel when you're not physically on campus. And we have a lot of really great things going on within our department specifically. I mean, certainly holistically with the university, we have great leadership. We're doing a lot of great things. But as it relates to our program, we really have had a really strong previous 2 years. We just broke ground, had a ribbon cutting ceremony 2 months ago for our new Delaware North Scene Lab, which, how many of you, show hands, how many of you remember Statler Dining Hall in Xavier. So Statler Dining Hall no longer exists. We completely retrofitted that space with a state-of-the-art, first-class lab. Now, when I say lab, it's a working classroom. Actually, it's being utilized tonight for the Johnson Wales Board of Trustees meeting to show off that space, and we're thrilled for that. We've hosted conferences. It also plays home to many of our classes, but it really, most importantly, gives us a brand identity, and I think keeps us relevant and fresh in terms of delivering a competitive product in the marketplace, and we're really proud of that. We're also entering our second year of our partnership with TD Garden and the Boston Bruins, which, again, talk about a competitive advantage. That's been another really unbelievable development that our students have benefited from. In fact, one of my colleagues, Julie Viscari-Smalley, took her class, her small class of DE students to TD Garden today to present their work from the fall term to TD Garden executives. And in fact, one of the audience members today was Bianca Cipolla, who was in that class in the spring, and as a result of being in the class and interfacing with TD Garden professionals and executives, was offered an internship. So that's, I think that speaks to really the game-changing forward momentum that we're starting to see, and I think that's a testament to our leadership at the university. Couldn't be more proud to be a part of that. In terms of the academic major, we have to stay relevant. We have to remain competitive. So SEAM as a brand identity is changing a little bit for fall 2020. And as some of you are aware, we're transitioning from 3 11-week terms to the more customary semester model. Still no classes on Fridays, so you'll be happy to hear that. So we can add that to our marketing pitch. But we're really, that will, I think, provide a more fruitful and enriching experience for our students in terms of the experiential component, in terms of internships and those experiential learning based projects. But we will now have standalone majors in sport management and event management. And I think that speaks to the maturity of those respective industries and disciplines. Specifically, event tonight, you're going to hear a lot about that. The event industry is thriving, and it continues to diversify and mature, and we feel like we've really delivered a curriculum that is robust and speaks to every element that an event planner needs. And our industry partners are really thrilled for that, because we are one of the few programs in the country that specialize in the event piece. And I think that's where we can find our niche and really grow our brand identity as it pertains to events. We're actually thrilled to also be adding graduate programming. We currently added a grad program in sport leadership, which we're thrilled about, and we'll be adding an MBA with an event leadership concentration for fall 2020 and a full MS in event leadership for fall 2021. So a lot of really great developments that we are thrilled to share with our students and with our alums. I couldn't be more proud to be part of the Johnson Wales family. So this is an exciting night tonight because you get to hear from some of our best and brightest alums. And I'm happy at this moment to introduce them to come up. And that will be followed by our panel discussion, in which we'll really get into some interesting content specific to the sports, entertainment, and event field. So without further ado, Sheila DeMore, class of 16 rather. Seems like you just graduated. Head of marketing and assistant manager for Heroic Records. Come on up, Sheila. We have Bianca Francois, class of 2012. Bianca's a freelance event producer. Come on up, Bianca. Thank you. Diana Furs, class of 93. I know she doesn't look it. She's the senior catering sales executive for York Marriott East Side. This property. And last but not least, Peter Matra, class of 94, district manager, sports and entertainment for New York division of Aramark. Peter. thank you all for joining us on the panel this evening. So we'd like to start out by asking, and Sheila, if you could start us off, could you please give us a brief overview of your role and tell us what a day in the life consists of you at Heroic? Sure.
I was doing that. We're supposed to. Testing. Okay. So I work at Heroic. It is a primarily a management company, but with label services in the music industry. We represent a variety of artists in the dance music space as well as alternative music. One of our biggest artists is San Holo. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. But yeah, so I'm the head of marketing there, and I'm also an artist manager. Right and wrong. But yeah, so I manage 3 of the artists, and then I head the marketing department. So basically, what that means is, as the head of marketing, I'm overseeing all of the releases and making sure that we have amazing marketing plans and that we're pitching to all the DSPs and for all the marketing opportunities, radio, everything like that. And then on the artist management side, I'm doing everything for artist management. So like product management on the label side, and then artist management, day-to-day management, which encompasses a lot. I can't really tell you everything, but that's a brief description of my role.
Great. Thanks, Sheila. Bianca?
Hi, I'm Bianca. I currently work with Viacom. I'm on the production management team for MTV's Wild 'N Out. I am a freelance event producer, and I freelance in production management as well. A day in the life for me differs depending on what job I'm currently working on. Right now with Wild 'N Out, we are getting ready to gear up to go shoot in Atlanta for a month. We're leaving on Sunday. So right now, my role is making sure that all of our crew is being paid, our stages are being built, making sure our vendors are being paid out correctly. A lot of the logistics and operational components that go into making sure a show is being able to run.
Exciting. Great. Thank you. Diana?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome. I'm Diana Shapiro, Diana Furrow, Senior Catering Sales Executive here at this hotel. So I've been here for about 4 years, and my responsibility is to fill the ballroom as you're sitting in this evening. So whether it's a meeting, whether it's a social event, or wedding, that's my job, is to fill our hotel, our 18,000 square feet of unique space. So it could be a conference inside the hotel. It could be on our 16th floor beautiful terrace, and if anybody would like to see it, I'd be happy to show it to you. But we do a variety of events here, and it's really, every day is something different, so it's the day in the life is always different for me as well. But I also have the opportunity to use my culinary skills by working with our kitchen, working with our event team, and working with our banquet team to make sure that we're giving our guests the absolute best experience.
Thank you. Peter?
Hello, my name is Peter Matra. I'm a district manager for Aeromark Sports and Entertainment. I have 4 accounts. I manage about an $80 million portfolio. My main account is Citi Field, which is where my office is, home of the New York Mets. I also have 3 other accounts, the spring training facility in Port St. Lucie, Florida, the minor league ballpark in Brooklyn, Coney Island, and an amphitheater in Bridgeport, Connecticut. A day in the life, it depends on where I am. Most of the time I'm at Citi Field, that's where my office is. I have a general manager and a management team at each account. So a day in the life would be, spending time at the account, whether I'm in Citi Field or one of my other accounts, spending time with the clients, talking to the management team, planning for the upcoming season. If we're during season, I'm usually walking the ballparks, walking the accounts, making sure that hot dogs are there, staff is there. It's simplified, but it's a myriad of things. It's dealing with corporate, it's dealing with the New York Mets, it's dealing with our unions, everything that goes into running a major league venue.
Excellent. Thanks, Peter. So the next question is more about your journey from Johnson & Wales to where you are today. So can you talk, Bianca, we'll start with you, about your career progression from when you graduated to where you are today?
Sure. So I do owe a lot of my career to Johnson & Wales. My first internship that I think really launched my career was with Bad Boy Entertainment, working with their marketing department. And I was able to kind of connect with them because an alumni was at that office. So I really appreciated Johnson & Wales for connecting me with that alumni. After graduation, I went to go work at Nickelodeon for a year and a half, still doing production management. And I worked in TV for about 2 years until I decided I really wanted to use my degree and go back into event management. So I went to a luxury catering company called Creative Edge Parties, and I was with them for about 2 years, and I decided I wanted to freelance. I wanted to try different aspects. So right now I've been freelancing for about a full year. I've worked back in hospitality, planning galas, and then I've also worked back in television, now with Wall and Out and with fashion shows for Tommy Hilfiger.
Excellent, thank you. Diane?
So my career, after I graduated in '93, I got a job at the Marriott Marquis pastry shop in Times Square, and I thought, this is it. This is exactly what I want to do. I have the best job in the world. I'm never going to do anything else. So in my mind, I was never going to wear a suit. I was never going to sit behind a desk. I was going to be in the kitchen. So after 5 years of working at the Marriott Marquis, the Brooklyn Marriott opened, and I was tapped to go be the pastry chef. Fabulous. Continuing the career. I'm in the kitchen. I have my dream job. And about 2 years after we opened, I was coming back from our banquet event meeting, and Mr. David Salpis, who I was director of sales at the time, said, I want to talk to you. I said, we're creating a senior catering sales position, and I think you'd be great for it. And I said, I don't know how to sell anything. I don't own a suit. I don't know how to use a computer. Yeah, great candidate. He said, I'll teach you everything you need to know. When somebody takes that kind of investment in you, you have to take that leap. So it took me about 45 minutes. Spoke with my executive chef, who was not thrilled, and I went into sales. That was in the year 2000. I did catering sales for about 5 years. I did events for 3 years, and then I came back to the Marriott Marquis in 2008, and back to catering sales, and came over to this hotel. So it's been a very interesting ride. The interesting thing was, back then, you didn't make those type of leaps. You stayed in your role. It was very rare that you would see somebody go from the kitchen into sales or into events. So I am very grateful for the opportunities that I've been given. I'm very grateful to David for having the faith in me. And 20 years later, here we are back at the same hotel.
Peter?
Okay, so I graduated in 1994. I did the prerequisite, internships at the, I think we were at the Seekonk Inn, I think, right, Josh? Is that where we were?
Yeah.
Did an externship at the Hyatt down in Hilton Head, South Carolina between my junior year and senior year. And I think I realized somewhere around there that I didn't want to be in hotels. My degree was in hospitality sales and meeting management. Bachelor's was in hotel and restaurant management. So when I got out of school, I moved down to South Carolina and got into the restaurant business. And I was working privately owned restaurants, and I did that for about 5 years. And then 2 guys that I was working with for a very long time, we opened up our own restaurant, and it was a casual fine dining restaurant. We had a ballroom upstairs, an old Elks Lodge. It was a cool building. Casual fine dining, 150-seat restaurant, and a ballroom upstairs. We did, some catering, weddings and stuff. And it didn't work out. We weren't very successful. We were very young. We didn't have enough financing to really get us through the tough times. And at the same time, my wife and I were moving back to New York. So I got a job with Aramark at Old Giant Stadium, home of the Jets and Giants. And I started as an assistant suites manager, and my career progressed from there. I think within a month, they promoted me to the lead suite manager, or whatever that was at the time. And then I became assistant general manager at Shea Stadium. I became the concession manager at the arena, where the Devils and the Nets played. And the spring that I was there, the Devils went to the Stanley Cup and the Nets went to the NBA Finals. So I think I worked like 60 straight days that spring. And then after that, I got promoted to assistant general manager at Old Shea Stadium, then back to Giant Stadium as assistant general manager, and then became general manager. And I was there for my last 5 years, where I was the general manager at Old Giant Stadium. And then we lost it. Well, they built a new building. We didn't win the new contract. I went to work for another company, Centerplate, which is in the same type of business, sports entertainment. I ran the Prudential Center primarily, and then I took on a larger role, and I had 12 accounts in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, conference centers, ski resorts, an arena, a couple minor league baseball stadiums. And then about 5 years ago, Aramark recruited me back and brought me back to work for them. So I've been with Aramark a total of 15 years, with a little bit of a gap in between. So I've been in the sports world for about 19 years. And I was brought back as the general manager of Citi Field, and then promoted on and took on some more responsibilities. So that's kind of the progression of my career.
Fantastic, thanks, Peter. Sheila?
Yes, so the music industry is very difficult to get into, so my story is very odd. But basically, thanks to Johnson & Wales, I did an internship at Warner Music Group when it was like my last trimester. Unfortunately, it didn't turn into a job afterwards, which is kind of what that was supposed to be. So I just moved to New York and decided I would just apply for jobs. And I did that for a good 3 to 4 months and couldn't even get an interview anywhere. It was very difficult. And so I was just waitressing, and I told myself, like, you know, I have to waitress somewhere where I'm gonna be waiting on people that are working in the music business that I could potentially network with by waiting on them. So I just kind of like bounced around to different jobs in waitressing, and then I started working at Beauty and Essex, if any of you are familiar, Tao Group, and I waited on the CEO of Cinematic Music Group. I found out because when they went to pay, they were like, oh, my Paradigm card, and I was like, oh, Paradigm, agency, music, awesome. So I asked if I could send my resume to them. The 2 agents looked at me like I had 10 heads, and they were like, whatever. And then the CEO was like, oh yeah, sure, like send me your resume. So I sent it to him, I went in for an interview, got a job as his assistant. This was when the company had like 10 people in the company, which was great for me because it gave me the opportunity to like move up really quickly. So within like 3 months being there, I moved up to project manager. I was managing his brand, the Smokers Club, which is a cannabis lifestyle brand. And then an electronic act called Napoleon Gold. And then as I dual rolled as like a project manager and executive assistant, I transitioned into full-time project manager for about 6 months. And then I realized that I just didn't want to work there anymore because I don't like hip hop, and it was a hip hop label. So I started doing like freelance stuff. Like I was doing like freelance artist relations at festivals, freelance writing for blogs, going to events. I was managing my own artists. I was consulting for an experiential marketing agency. I didn't sleep. And then I ended up getting fired from that job and started a job at a different company that was a VIP company. I was a touring coordinator at that company. Hated that job. So I started looking for a new job, and I saw this one. It was a remote job. It was head of marketing at a dance label. I love dance music. I applied, and for once, I got an interview from applying somewhere. So, got that interview, killed it, got the job. That was 4 months ago. Here I am, finally happy in a job that I like.
So I think the message here is no linear path, right? So Diana, we'll start with you. Can you talk about one success and one failure throughout your career, whether in your current role or previous roles, that really made an impact as you reflect back on your career progression?
Well, the major success was leaving the kitchen and going into sales. I mean, literally knowing nothing. The year that I started, my goal was $800,000, and 5 years later, I booked $4.2 million in Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Marriott before it was a destination hotel. So that was a huge success, and it really made you feel good and have that confidence. I then transitioned into a director's position, which now when we talk about linear or talk about path, a lot of people think, this is the progression that I should be going into, and it is if it's what you want. But I found out very quickly that being a director and being in that leadership role was not for me. I missed working directly with my clients. I missed that sort of interaction of the sale. And I found out that leadership comes from sharing your experiences with others, being a mentor to others, and to being true to yourself. Because taking that path, necessarily doesn't work for everybody. But having the confidence to say, this is not working for me, I'm gonna go do what works best for me, I turned what I think a failure into a success.
Great, thank you.
Nothing really sticks out in terms of individual success, but I think when I think back on my career, the successes that I'm proud of are some of the really big events that I've worked and managed, and anything from Belmont Stakes, over 110,000 people, the Breeders' Cup, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup, NFC Championship game, Major League Baseball playoff games, major concerts. So those are some of the things that I think I'm really proud of that I've kind of experienced in my career. And I guess the failure that I would kind of look back on, what did I learn from it, would be the failure of my own restaurant. I think just the takeaway from that was just what I took forward into my career is just making sure that you're prepared. I don't think we were prepared for, being in the business. We didn't have enough financing to support us through the tough times. Restaurant business is really tough. So I think, just going forward into my career, I always just made sure that we were, really prepared for events. I mean, when you're doing events that large, especially just everyday football games, when you're feeding 80,000 people, if you're not prepared, there's no catching up. So I think that kind of stuck with me, just being over prepared for anything that could possibly happen, making sure you got enough staff and product, and every dotting every I, crossing every T. So I think that was really kind of the takeaway of that.
Great, thank you.
I guess just from my experiences, not having things play out the way I expected to, I just learned a lot about life and growth. I first expected to just get hired for my internship, that was easy. And then I realized, oh wait, most people here have 5 internships and then they get hired, or have the same internship twice at the same company. It was just unrealistic expectations. And then getting fired from that job, the next job that I had at Cinematic, because I just was applying for a ton of jobs and they kind of found out about it. It just kind of taught me how to move and how to expect things. And that also just prepared me for the role I'm in today, I guess. Where my role now is, as the head of marketing, I oversee a full department, and as an artist manager, I manage artists. So it's just a lot of personality management, and I also maintain relationships for the company, which is huge. So yeah, it's all of those things, all my failures, I feel taught me how to interact with people better and how to manage my expectations, I guess.
Excellent, thank you.
So of the events and productions that I worked on, I think one of the most successful, at least for me personally, I was planning a birthday party for one of the members of Migos in Miami. We had a lot of curveballs that were thrown our way. Our budget didn't get approved until I was on the plane flying to Miami the night before. Our event designer pulled out the night before. The bathing suits that were being shipped over for our models got stuck in customs. And we were having problems booking book slips for our talent to arrive on to the venue that we were at. So just being able to get down there, meet with my team, I was acting as an event manager on this project and making sure, okay, we can't find bathing suits, let's find the wholesale district, let's try to fix that. Okay, our event designer pulled out, we have connections in Miami, let's see who we can pull in, let's find freelancers to help us work with that. Okay, our boat slips aren't working, let's talk with the venue, let's see if they have an extra slip or if they know somebody that can give us a slip that's at the venue next door, and we walk them in a different way. At the end of the day, my team was happy, our client was happy, and I think that was one of the more successful projects that I've done, because there's so many things that could have went wrong, and at the end of the day, they were happy. And one failure for me, I was let go from a production associate position that I had. I honestly wasn't pulling my weight. I checked out, it wasn't something I wanted to do anymore, and my director was like, hey, I know you're a good person, but it's not working out, you have to go. And I don't look at that as a failure anymore, because it lit so much fire under me that I was like, okay, I'm gonna kill every other job that I do, I'm gonna do a great job, I'm gonna make all these connections, and it really worked out. And the same director that let me go from that position, she recommended me for the current position that I do have, so it does work out.
So those are the success stories, that we like to bring into the classroom. So please give me your business card so I can make sure that we're connecting you with our faculty, so we can maybe get you into the classroom on a Skype session. So because you all represent a diverse array of across the spectrum of sports, entertainment, event production, sales and catering, the ancillary service component, I come up with one pointed question for each of you. And Sheila, I'll start off with you. There are more than one part question, so if you need me to repeat, I'm certainly happy to. But it's always great to hear about kind of cutting edge, innovative techniques that you're implementing in your respective jobs. So with that, Sheila, as the entertainment industry continues to change with the demands from multiple stakeholders, can you share with us how technology is impacting the way you conduct business? Are there any tips that you can give us for incorporating specific technology to enhance the consumer's experience and or drive business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my company is just very into the whole tech world, so we're constantly trying new things in regards to tech. So, just like for example, when you go to an artist's Instagram page and you look in their bio and there's a short link, there's so many different companies that make those short links. Right now, we were using Feature FM, and Linkfire is another company that just did a deal with Apple Music, and now we're considering working with them. So little things like that that you don't even notice are like a really big deal to us. Some other big deals to us are cybersecurity. So we use LastPass for all of our passwords, and we have 2FA on like everything. And that's a really big deal to my CEO. Like, he'll go in and check if you have 2FA on everything. And LastPass has like changed my life, honestly. It makes encrypted passwords for every single thing that you log into, and then it just like auto-populates for you. Outside of that, like, we use a platform called SongSpace when sending music out, and it's a way for you to protect the music that you're sending out so people can't download it. Instead of just sending a Dropbox or Google Drive link, which then compromises your entire Dropbox and Google Drive. So little things that you wouldn't think about are kind of a big deal to us. And then I guess just some other things to think about in the entertainment industry are like different social media platforms that are popping off right now, like TikTok and Triller. They're a huge deal to us because those platforms are actually breaking artists, and we're running like full campaigns on TikTok, or we're paying influencers like $10,000 to promote our songs. So those platforms are really important for our artists and can honestly change somebody's whole career in life, which you would never think of either. So just, I guess, little things like that. I can go on and on about tech for days, but yeah, those are just a couple of things.
Thank you. The life of a social media influencer. Who knew? Who knew that was a vocation, right?
Yeah, for real.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah.
Bianca, the concept of wowing event attendees continues to be a major planning objective. Can you share with us some techniques to creative engagement of all 5 senses during an event? In general, what do you find most difficult to integrate, and you can share any best practices with us?
Sure, so to start with, what's most difficult to integrate, I would think, is scents. When you go into a room, 50% of your guests are always going to remember what they're seeing, but more so 65 to 70% are always going to remember what they smell and how that made them feel. So I think that's a very important part going into your event. There are different companies, whether it's venting, that can help pump your room with different air and different scents. I find it helpful that if you are doing a conference or something where you're going to have your guests sitting down for a long period of time, if you use a scent like peppermint, that triggers your mind, keeps you awake, keeps your audience vitalized, and keeps them paying attention to the speakers that you have. As far as the other scents, whether it's touch, taste, sight, what's the last one? Hearing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I was wrong.
Yeah, I was like, this is a lot. But when you're sitting down, think if you're going to a banquet, you're sitting down, you're at your table, you're feeling the linen of the cloth. Is it linen? Is it cotton? Is it a rattan? Is it a sequence? Your guests are going to be feeling how they're sitting down. Do you have a cushion chair? Do you have a wood chair? Are you sitting in ghost chairs? How does that ghost chair, the height of that, project to the table? They're going to be tasting your food. How is that food presented to you? All these trigger each other in the sense.
Great, thank you. Diana, we'll move over to you. Considering the highly competitive nature of the event industry, especially in New York City, can you share specific strategic initiatives your organization implements in order to remain competitive and positioned for sustainable success? Last part of that is, what do you anticipate to the food will be the food and beverage trends of 2020?
So as far as strategic implementation, there are so many platforms that we can use. We have online, we have our internal computers. There's a lot of things that we can do to find new business. But at the end of the day, it's really about knowing your competition. It's really about knowing who's in your area, who's in your backyard, what are they doing, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses, and knowing how to play against them. There could be a hotel that opens up across the street from you. It's brand new, it's fancy, it has all the bells and whistles, but does it have the service? What is your client looking for? Know your client, know your competition, and that's how you sell towards them. That's what they're looking for at the end of the day. fancy is nice, but knowing them, making connection with them, and understanding their needs will always go much further than something that's maybe new or trendy. But going into food trends, it's interesting. There's so many ways to look at food trends, but one of the easiest ways is to go into your local supermarket. I have one of my colleagues who goes into Whole Foods and always sees what's new, what's exciting, is there something that's being sampled. The Impossible Burger, this is something that's really popular. I was just talking to my director of operations and chefs, can we do a slider station? If you went into a banquet and saw an Impossible Burger, this is something that's going to appeal to people who aren't eating meat, and it's also something that's very trendy. So you want to keep in with different types of flours, people with gluten allergies. Are there flours being made from vegetables, from plants, from fruits? These types of things are what the clients are looking for, because a banquet is a banquet, but are you giving them the experience and you're giving them what they need to really have that fulfilled experience? So I think as far as trends, really keep up on what the food allergies are, what people's preferences are, and how do you incorporate that into your banquet menus.
Great, thank you. And Peter, as the sports and entertainment industry continues to grow and diversify, how have you seen the ancillary services segment within sports venues evolve over the past 10 to 15 years? How has the application of analytics impacted the strategic decision process within sports venues? And what opportunities within the space do you see for future sport management graduates?
Well, let's start by talking about how the industry has grown. I think 15 years ago, I think people went into a ballpark or a stadium and just expected hot dogs, beer, soda water, and that's changed drastically. It started probably about 10 years ago, and it probably started with sushi, and then it went to, chicken tenders and fries. But I mean, it's gone so far beyond that now that, Citi Field is something we're very proud of because we're considered a foodie paradise. People come to the ballpark just to walk around and do food tours. And we've put a lot of time and effort into kind of keeping it fresh and staying cutting edge. You mentioned the Impossible Burger. We implemented that 2 years ago at Citi Field. So like now it's becoming popular. Burger King's doing commercials and all that. We spend a lot of time going to food truck festivals, going to food halls, seeing what's really hot, what's trending, making sure that we're staying on top of things, and we're implementing things that are just popping into the market. And in New York, we have to stay in the forefront. I mean, people come to our ballpark expecting good food, expecting quality food, and something that we've been really on top of. And we've gained a reputation for being one of the leaders in the sports and entertainment world. So we're very proud of that. From an analytics standpoint, I would say over the last 5 years, it's become a very big part of our business. We've begun to hire, whether it's regional or account-based analysts. A lot of our data from a client review standpoint, we do 2 client reviews a year. We do mid-year, we do end of year. That's all based off of analytics, whether it's sales data, transactional data. All of our pricing is based upon analytics, whether it's pricing in the market, trends within the line of business, trends within a specific sport. So analytics has become a very big part of our business, and that's not going to change anytime soon. As you can see from, if anybody's a baseball fan, everybody talks about the analytics. Well, that's even on the hot dog side of the business. So it's not just hot dogs and sodas anymore. So it's a very complicated business. If you repeat the last part of the
What do you
question.
see insofar as opportunities for future graduates within your space, within your discipline?
Yeah, listen. I mean, in any one of our venues, we operate the majority of the real estate. We've got 45 salaried managers and chefs at Citi Field alone. On any given game, we have 1,800 to 2,000 employees in the building. So we have lots of opportunity. Our business is, in essence, is food service. What we do is we sell food. So that's kind of when I'm recruiting and I'm looking for candidates, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for candidates that have gone through and have a culinary degree or a food service degree. They've gained experience and before they've gotten to me. But that's in essence what we do. We serve food. So I know we're in the sports management panel here, but in essence that's what we do.
Sure.
But there's certainly a lot of opportunity. I mean, like I said, Citi Field, we have a very large management team. 2,000 employees on a sold-out baseball game. So, there's always opportunity. I mean, I'm always looking for new employees. It's very difficult to find quality staff, especially with our specific skill set. You know, the folks that I'm looking for that, you know, have experience in my world are very difficult to find. There's only, you know, 5 or 6 venues in New York City that, you know, it's very different than a hotel, you know, where that, you know, that may be a more common experience, you know, line of experience. But, you know, somebody who has concessions or warehouse experience in our world is very hard to find, so.
Great, thank you. We'll keep you on the hot seat, and we have time for 2 more questions, so these questions will appeal to all the panelists. Peter, what's the greatest misconception about your industry, and how do you combat that misconception for anyone that may be considering a career in your field?
I'll start with a joke. You know, people say to me, what do you do in the off season? And I tell them, I do nothing. We just show up on opening day just like you, and the hot dogs and the soda and the employees are all there. People don't realize, but oftentimes I'm busier at my level. I'm busier during the off season than I am during the season. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. Capital projects with the clients and planning and menus, and so I think that's the biggest misconception of even my own father, who, you know, for 20 years, like, what do you do in the off season? Nothing, Dad. I stay home. You know, so I think that's the biggest misconception. But you know, I think people don't often. I think from a more serious side, I think people don't really look at our end of the business. I think they look at the sports world and they say they all want to be Brian Cashman or Brody Van Wagenen, you know. And there's not many of those jobs around. So I think one of the misconceptions is that there is a lot of opportunity on our side of the world if you want to be in the sports world. You know, I go to work every day in a ballpark. It's fun. You know, 3:30, 4 o'clock when I need a break from my office, I go out and watch batting practice. So you know, it's fun. You know, if you're a sports fan, it's a cool environment to be in. You know, I've seen, worked, and been to almost every major event you can imagine. 5 Super Bowls. So that's a cool part of it. So it's there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, great, thank you. Diane?
I think the biggest misconception is that people think it's easy, that what happens in this building is easy, and it truly takes a village. And I sort of liken it to a ballet. And I remember many years ago when I was at the Brooklyn Marriott, we had about 850-person wedding, which was normal for us. And you had the men on one side and women on the other side. And we had a banquet manager who'd only been there for about a week. But he saw the work that I was doing, where I would count every table and count every knife and every fork, because you could have 10 chairs and 12 plates, and that doesn't work. So he said, I don't want you to count this side of the room. I'm gonna do this, and I don't want you to double check my work. Okay, a little bit tough for me, but it's okay. So as the ceremony's going on next door, one of the guests comes in looking for table 23, whatever table it was. Wasn't there. We missed an entire table. So he comes to me and says, we have a problem, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, fine, let's just take care of it. So we'd gotten this guest out of the ballroom. The next thing you know, you have Houseman bringing the table, and the next person's bringing the linen, and the next person's bringing the plates, and the forks, and the centerpiece, and the chairs, and the water, and blah, 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 blah. When that guest came back in, looking at his face to see table 23 on his card, and there it is, when it wasn't there, that is just, you can't imagine what would happen if that table wasn't there, considering the owner of our hotel was sitting right next door to them. So the village that it takes to put these events together, it's a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding. And you really have to understand where it comes from, and you want it to look easy for your guests. You want them to come into the room, and it's like a magician just put this all together. But there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of hard work that goes into it.
Thank you.
I think a misconception about my industry is that it's very glamorous and fun, and you get to hang out with these celebrities and go to all these parties. And sometimes it is that. Sometimes it is a lot of fun, and you do get to hang out with these celebrities. But a lot of the times it is a lot of hard work. It's very long hours. It's getting up for a 4 a.m. or a 6 a.m. call and not getting home till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. It's lots of grunt work. Yesterday was a Sunday. I went into my office and I moved 280 pounds of paper. But today I'm closing contracts on a $15 million show. So a misconception that people do have is that it's very glamorous. It's a lot of hard work. It's very rewarding work because you get to see everything that you're working on come to life. You get to see other people enjoy it. But it's a lot of work.
I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah, everyone thinks like the music industry, it's glamorous, but it's like she said, it's a lot of hard work and it's really difficult to get your foot in the door. I I would also say another big misconception for just like all you starving musicians out there is that you need to have a major label to be successful, and it's just not true. I've worked with independent artists for the past like 2 years, and the first time it was at a small indie label that's grown into a very large successful label. And then now I'm at another small indie label again, which will also probably grow into a very successful label. So it's really just about like the time, effort, and work you put in and the relationships that you have that determine your success and like just your perseverance through it all. You don't need a major label.
Great stuff, thanks, Jill. So what we'd like to do at this time is open it up to any questions from the audience for our panelists. Do you have any questions out there?
How do you guys manage stakeholder requests, particularly those that are in the VIP category, especially when it goes against maybe what management might want or your budget, things like that? How do you manage that type of work?
So take that one.
Yeah. So like I did freelance artist relations work last year at Miami Music Week, and it was at this club called 11, which is like it's a strip club but also a club. And so all of the artists that were there were like top tier artists, and since they're the biggest artists in the world, they think that they can do whatever they want and get whatever they want. And sometimes that's against management's policies. Like we can't give you 5 bottles of 1942. We just can't. And so I'm not going to name artists, but probably one of the biggest artists in the world right now was just really giving us a problem about that. And we literally just have to tell them, like, I'm sorry, but we'll give you another bottle when this bottle is finished. And although you are intimidated talking to this person because, you know, they're on the radio and they're a big deal, like you have to do what's right for the person that you work for. And I worked for the club that night, not for the artist. So sometimes it's hard, but you gotta do what you gotta do, and you just have to, you know, service the person you're working for in that moment.
It's a lot of compromise. For my end, in addition to working like event production, I also do talent relations stuff. I work with different music festivals, Made in America, Powerhouse, and going back and forth. So where it comes from for me, we have a lot of artists coming in like, oh, I have 20 more people coming, I need 20 more credentials. We don't have the space to fit 20 more people or to give you the credentials. So just being very open with their management, being very open with them, but also depending on who the client is, sometimes you do have to find that compromise. So okay, we can't give you 20, but we can give you 7 backstage and we can get you the rest of your people a seat in the show. So just finding that compromise and being willing to speak up and not being afraid to speak to their management, you know, in the time.
Yeah.
So in a hotel, you have stakeholders, you have managers, you have people, owners that own the building, and you know, we as people working the hotel would like to see different things within the hotel, but maybe it's not getting done. So you do sort of have that struggle between the money, the owners, people who are putting the productions together. But I think what you can control are the team that you work with and the service that you're providing for your guests. So maybe we're not getting, you know, brand new tables and chairs if we wanted them on the wish list, because it's not budget. But what can you control that's within your power? You're still taking care of your guests. You're still going to provide them with the best possible experience from the time that they walk into the front desk, to going up to their room, to going into our M Club, to going into our lounge, to having their event in the ballroom. The things that you can control are really providing that best possible experience.
I guess in my world, when you talk about VIPs, it's going to either be clients or the team owners. You know, in most buildings, team owners, they're your client, it's their building, and you know, if they want something, they're going to get it. You know, if we can't get it to them that day, it's there the next day. You know, on the customer side of things, it'd be more our suite holders, and you know, basically, if we can provide it for them, and you know, it's going to come at a cost, and that's really it. I mean, if we can provide it, and chefs can whip it up, or we can, you know, bring in whatever wine or liquor they want. It's just going to be, you know, if they want specific liquor or wine that I can only get by the case, then they're buying the whole case. So it's really simple. It's just, you know, you can have whatever you want. You're going to pay for it. It's real simple. In my world, anyway.
Great.
And those of you that have been to ballparks, you know, it's not cheap. You know, it's expensive. So people expect to pay probably more than they would on the street or anywhere else. So you know, it's just the nature of my world.
Great answers. Yes. Roxy, you always ask good questions. So. Who wants to take that?
I guess I can start. Listen, first of all, there's a minimum in New York as far as I'm concerned. I think we have to pay like $58,500 as the minimum entry level salary for anybody that's salaried, non-exempt. I don't know. There may be privately owned restaurants and bars that may not adhere to that, but in my business, it's all about your level of experience, how many years you've been in the business, and your ability to take new jobs, relocate. I've found that folks that have really grown their career progression have taken jobs that may have been out of their comfort level. They've relocated to another city, moved to another account, and with that, moved to another company, and with that, you grow your salary. So I would say, unless you're moving into your quote-unquote dream job, you should never go backwards as far as your salary and your expectations. You just got to find the right niche, I would say.
To echo that point, so there is in New York market reference points. So what are these jobs paying in different hotels? How do you find out, whether it's through LinkedIn, whether, it's from speaking with other colleagues of yours, but something like for a hotel, it's a little bit different because there's a total package. There's a total benefits package that comes with being hired here. Whether your medical benefits, your salary, what type of profit sharing you have, what are you looking at as far as stock? So you have to take a look at, and the job itself. Is this the job that you want? Maybe you do have to take a job that is not exactly what you want just to get to where you want to be, but you need to look at the total package because it's not always about money. There are a lot of other benefits that come with that could be very important to you and kind of make up for maybe that $5,000 that you're not getting right off the bat.
Can I just interject on there? I would say if you're starting out in your career as well, look to companies where you know you're going to have a lot of runway. A Marriott, an Aramark. They're very large companies. There's going to be lots of opportunity for you to grow your career. If you're going to work, and I started my career working for independent restaurant owners, and there was no progression there. So I got out of that world and saw my career skyrocket from there. So just make sure you're in, you've got some runway to your career with who you're working for.
I know you mentioned freelance, so I can speak a bit more to that. It's always good to set your day rate, multiply it out to what you would want your salary to be, but also because you're freelance, you have the opportunity to work for different companies. You're not stuck with them, so you can make up your money that way. If you're at a freelance job and they're requiring, hey, we need you to bring your laptop in, ask them for a kit fee. It may be like $25 to $100 a week, but it's something extra. If you're working outside the state on a freelance job, you can ask them for per diem per day, and that's how you can kind of get your salary up a little bit.
In music, they pay like the least amount of all the industries, I think. So not really much to say there. Pretty sure like major labels starting salaries like $33K or something, like really low. So yeah, it's really tough. I was lucky because I was working in independent companies, so I was making a livable wage. This company that I work for now is based out of the Netherlands, so not so lucky because they have a lower wage out there in comparison in euros. But the way I look at it is like, the connections that I'm making and the things that I'm doing are really all just for the longevity of my career. And I feel like taking a pay cut sometimes is worth it if you know that it's going to lead to like larger things in the future. And also it's really important when you're signing contracts to just make sure that there's no non-compete clauses, which was something I really paid attention to because I can't work for any other company that is in the management, publishing, or label space, but I can work for production companies. So in the summer, if I want to go work some music festivals or do whatever, I can just go make some extra cash. And that was really important to me. So just those little things so you know how you're able to make more money.
Great insight from all panelists. I think we may have time for one more question, or I'm getting the no. But before, I just, this was really great information, and I think we all learned quite a bit, and we have relatively newbies to the industry, and you gotta love what you do, right? Yeah. And some really experienced sage advice and insight. So thank you for that. So at this time, I'd like to invite Lori Zabata, Director of Alumni Relations, to say a few words.
Great. Hi. That was outstanding. This is very loud. That was outstanding. I'll hold it here. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Let's give them one more round of applause. That was very great. Very insightful. Very insightful. As an alumna myself, I am inspired by all that you shared with us today, for sure. And I'm loving all of the cutting edge experience that our panelists have. So this is really wonderful that you're here with us tonight. So thank you. As a small token of our appreciation, I'd like to invite Liza to come up with a bag for each of you, just a little something to show that we appreciate you being here today. So thank you. I'd also like to thank our JWU friends at Marriott, David Salfas, class of '88, for hosting us. Diana, thank you so much for hosting and pulling double duty of being a panelist. We appreciate all of your work. We were maybe not the easiest client that you've ever had, so thank you very much for dealing with us. I'd also like to thank our moderator for today, Patrick Leary. Thank you so much, Dr. Leary, for moderating the panel. And for our other faculty members that are here with us from the Providence campus, Elizabeth Pansiera, Michael Gilbert, and from our Denver campus, Sean Bailey. It was so great to hear about all of the innovative things that are happening, not only in each part of your industry, but also, Dr. Leary, thank you so much for walking us through all of the wonderful things happening on our campuses with the SEAM program. As you had shared with the group, you know, we opened up a SEAM lab this year, lots of changes in our academic programs, and just really exciting stuff. So first and foremost, if you have not been back to campus, I formally invite you right now to return to your campus. To experience all that our campus has to offer, but also all that our students have to offer. They really are amazing. If you think about when you were in those seats, how amazing you were, think about that, because they're just as amazing. And you can share a lot of information with them, and they would really enjoy hearing from you. We love to have you back to support our campus and our students, so volunteer. If you haven't been able to come back to campus in which to do that, please see myself or Liza. We'll talk to you about how to do that. We would love to have you come back, and our students love to have you in the classroom. There are some folks in the audience who have done that recently, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to share their experience with you. And of course, you know, we want to encourage you to lend a hand in terms of helping to expand the programs at Johnson & Wales, not just with your knowledge or your volunteerism, but through your philanthropic support as well. So if you are interested in learning more about how to do that, please see us. Again, Liza or myself. There are QR codes on the cocktail tables as well as out at the front table, and we'd really appreciate that. Our students really need the support, for sure. If you can think back to when you might have been a student, more than 98% of our students do receive some sort of financial aid, and we are committed to see them be successful, and I'm sure that you do too. So thank you so much for your participation tonight. And I encourage you to network with each other, certainly spend time with our panelists. I know that our friends at the Marriott are setting up behind you. I know you can't see that because you're facing me, but I don't want to stand in the way of hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, so enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again for being out here.